Let's back up a bit. Where I want to take you is, has anyone ever felt discriminated against in this country?
Yes.
Why should we clap?
Has any woman felt discriminated against in this country? Has any person felt discriminated against because of the color of their skin or the no color of their skin?
United States.
Has any man been discriminated just because he was a man?
Yes, United States.
Okay, have you been discriminated against because of your religious beliefs?
Yes.
All right, we're all in the same place. And it comes down to a recognition that we have a society in Canada that is trying to accommodate all of us, and in doing so, we bump up against each other. That is causing the problem. Government has failed in its ability to let us all know what is the standard in our society of acceptance and support. They've allowed racism, they've allowed sexism, they've allowed misogyny to not just be vocalized, but to be institutionalized in the way we think, in what we put in our schools as history lessons, and what we don't put in our schools as history lessons. I remember being a little kid at residential school, and we were taught about guide dogs. I mean, as a First Nation person, I never thought I'd ever go blind, but I certainly understood the respect one gave someone with a guide dog. And the first one was, don't touch the dog. It's not your dog. So when we look at the whole service dog, guide dog issue in Canada, government decided that because there's issues around access, because there's issues around people faking a disability so they can take their dog somewhere, they had the answer, and that was setting up forced registry for us. Anyone remember the Second World War in Europe? Who got forced registered? What did they have to wear on their coat? How did all that start? Where did apartheid start? In South Africa. They came in 1958 to this country to look at the reservation system, and they designed it based on that. Look at how people get segregated. What we're seeing right now, all we thought we had are what are human rights, you have to protect them. And this is what we did in this last year. And it was hard because as blind people we tend to eat our young at times. And and at the, I mean, I have a history of that in my own culture, so I totally understand it now that I'm also joined this culture. The idea that we need to be registered. Remember, we are the rights holders. Our dogs, our walkers, our canes are what we choose, and choice is a big part to mitigate our mobility, our way of working in the world, just as this loop around my neck is. These are things we use. However, the government has decided to ignore the fact that these are our choices to make, and where we get our dogs and how our dogs are trained. They've decided that's not our choice. And rather than look at us, the people who have the rights holders, us, they've decided to concentrate on the tool we're using. And we're saying no. Equality of citizenship means we have free right to go roam this country however we choose without any harassment of any kind. If every white-haired person in this country was stopped at the entrance to a mall in a power chair and asked to prove that they could come in and safely not run over anyone, there'd be hell to pay. If every parent who took their screaming kid into a public space was asked to see the registration that they passed training to have that child in a public space, there'd be yelling. But funny, we can get registered. Now, I'm a historian, just an amateur historian, But the first people that were taken out of society in Germany were people with disabilities, the defects. This is the beginning of that same thinking. And I'm someone, when I get that feeling deep in my gut, hell no, I know something's wrong. And across this country, when we heard they were going to do national standards, and they've been working on it for 2.5 years without our knowledge, in secret, behind closed doors, and guide dog school owners, and everyone but guide dog handlers were at the table, that is a problem, because again, people are deciding for us. And that came out in May of last year. And some of the standards, just so you would like to know, is if a dog was approaching you and you thought it might be detrimental to your dog, you had to cross the street immediately. We wouldn't see an oncoming dog.
No.
If your dog was being attacked, you physically had to get in between the two dogs.
Wow.
And it went on to the point that they were going to set up a certification board, and certain people who ran guide dog schools, follow the money, were really wanting to have a certification process that they could knock on your door anytime, come in your house, go through your house, make sure it's safe, and demand to see your financial records and go through them. This is written in their draft for public comment. This is not just thoughts. This is a serious, this is the 8th draft of those national standards. So not only did I get angry, but a lot of people got angry all at the same time. It was this visceral reaction. And we had a conference call. And that conference call, everybody said, hell no. And so a whole bunch of us old people, my dear Oriano and you were the young one in the group. We thought, oh God, do we have to get our hands stained with ink and making signs again to picket the government? And we thought, all right, here we go again. It's been a lot of years since they've done something so stupid that we were ready, as they say in the mafia, to hit the mattresses. And we went after them. And we didn't go after the people on the committee. We went after the function of what that would do to us, not just as blind people and people who use service dogs, but as equal Canadians. It was segregating us. It was putting us back in Germany before the war. And we said, no, we've seen this story too often. We're not going to even let this one go by, because this is a fundamental right of passage in this country to walk. So we voiced our concerns based on human rights. Now we have very good human rights laws in this country. We have very good human rights precedent in this country. We have the Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which incidentally, when it was written, forgot to put in people with disabilities, so they had to go march. I say they because I was dealing with putting Aboriginal rights in the Constitution at the time. The people with disabilities marched on Ottawa and got disability rights put in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Now,